I've been using RCs and drugs in general for about 3 years now, and I've just hit 20. Exclusively stuck to psychedelics up until a few months ago when I got extremely curious about the stimulant experience. It sounded like exactly what I needed based on my drug preferences in everyday life, so without hesitation, I placed my first order around last December. It was a sample package which contained around 7 of the most popular RC stimulants from my vendor website, killer price and around 2 grams of each substance along with a couple 2 and 3 FEA pills. Needless to say, I waited for the mailman that Christmas like a toddler expecting their gift, and my dopamine hit its peak when I woke up one day after a couple of weeks of placing the order to see that its status was out for delivery. I happily grabbed the package from the mailman's hand, and the next 2 weeks are a blur. I only remembered that I probably slept not even half of those 14 days. I was having an insane amount of fun by either being stimmed up on casual hangouts, gaming myself into oblivion which felt like I was a kid experiencing video games for the first time again, had the most intense sex of my life after barely being able to get it up due to vasoconstriction, and in general was having a blast. I remember 4-FMA being my favorite amongst all of them, along with honorable mentions 3-FPM and 3-CMC. It's really not as neurotoxic as they say, for any fellow researcher who's interested. Eventually those stimulants ran out, way faster than I had anticipated. I blamed it on the fact that I sold a few back then, but looking back it would have made very little difference to their longevity if I hadn't. Which brings us to 3 months back. I got my usual package of mixed stims and went absolutely ham on it as per usual. However, my one rule had been to not pull binges, as in when I hit the 24-hour mark, no matter what time it was, I wouldn't redose. I would eat, hit a blunt, and then sleep whenever that came. Due to work stress and a bunch of errands I had to run, I figured, hey, why not? I feel like the Ultimatrix evolved version of myself on stims, so why not pull a 3-day bender on 3-FMA, weed, Overwatch, working out, and do every errand or see all the people I wanted to eventually. The decision was already made in my mind during the first day. I wouldn't stop redosing until I hit 3 to 4 days to get a good trial of the stim psychosis experience. Food became a distant memory. Before I knew it, lost in a mild psychosis mindset on day 2, I checked my weight because my hip bones were popping out more than usual. I realized, oh shit, I really haven't eaten a thing since 36 hours ago at least. I lost 7 kilos due to how much I sweat and overexerted myself in a couple of days. Scary, but I think to myself, hey, I constantly eat, I'll regain that in a flash, so no biggie. On to the next day. Thankfully, during stimulant use, I always make sure to drink a shit ton of water, as dehydration wasn't a real concern according to the countless empty 2-liter bottles in my room. Worst part is, I felt disgusting. I showered 5 times in total, but the stench wouldn't wear off. And considering I live in a very hot country and that it was mid-July, you can guess how well that went for me. I had to keep a towel next to me whenever possible due to simply how much I was fucking sweating. I just hit master due to the insane aimbot and reflexes the substance gave me after having gotten so much done those few days. Whole house was clean. I hung out practically all day when I wasn't at work and played Overwatch while listening to music all night while also doing any chore that would come to mind. The energy was insane. But all that comes with a cost. 3rd day, I start feeling my extremities and left arm go numb. I did the one thing you should never do in those situations. I googled it. Results basically assured me that I had a heart attack incoming, and there was pretty much nothing I could do about it. I got kinda nervous, but I thought I'll be fine, no redoses, period. It got worse. I felt a burning sting in my heart and had trouble breathing. I started to panic a bit, so I started heading downstairs to grab some more water and then laid down. On the way there, my legs suddenly just go numb and stop working. I fall slowly on the ground, having difficulty breathing, and turn white. My whole body was drenched in sweat, and instead of normal vision, I started having DMT-level visuals, which I'd only witnessed before on 5-MeO DMT. Now, I remember that DMT gets released in the human body when you die, so that kinda terrified me in the moment. I thought, that's it. I'm gonna die. I felt my life slowly being pulled out of me, as if I decided to stop fighting to stay awake. That would be it. After having turned into a skeleton and trying to regain strength in my body for 30 minutes, I decided to try and get up. Well, what do you know? I'm completely fine, just need some really good food and rest. As far as I know, I got off with no damage that day. That's what the blood and heart test said anyways. Needless to say, that was a wake-up call for me. No more stimulant abuse. With the thoughts that ran through my head during those 30 minutes on the ground of me just trying to maintain stable breathing, I can say I'm glad to be alive. When I told the doctors about my experience, they said it was most likely a circulatory collapse or a panic attack. To be honest, I have no idea, but it was one of those hard life lessons that you need to learn. Not sure how to start this, so I'll just jump straight in. A few nights ago, I have taken 6-APB, aka Benzofury, and I've gotten delirium, or at least I think I did, because this was nothing like the stimulant psychosis I have had a few years ago. The night started off fine. I drank some water, ate some food, and got ready to take around 180 milligrams of Benzofury, just having a chill night rolling and having some psychedelic visuals like last time. Everything went fine like the last time I've used it. I've redosed 40 milligrams, which boosted the visuals, and it went well until at the end, when I pretty much come down. I made the mistake of thinking I could do the whole thing over right after, so I took another 170 milligrams. It already started getting pretty weird until I got the brilliant idea to finish the bag, and that mistake triggered what could possibly be the weirdest experience of my life, even weirder than stimulant psychosis or a bad trip. The first thing I noticed was my lamp turning into a white spider that looked very realistic. It appeared to be staying in place, but sometimes it was upside down, just floating there against the ceiling, which I thought looked pretty cool. I somehow didn't feel any fear or worry towards what was going to happen, and I just sat there texting people about the spider while I was still sane enough to text normally. The next thing was that I started seeing tiny black bugs and dots everywhere in the corner of my room darting around, but most of them were sitting in the edges of my wall. I still didn't feel much of anything towards them, since at this point I've already lost my grip on reality. Then the loop started of me smoking an unlit cigarette and talking to people in dreamlike scenarios in my head, then realizing I was talking to nobody and the cigarette wasn't even lit, even though it looked like it was. I wanted to smoke outside of my window, but I saw 3 pairs of very detailed see-through phantom feet hanging from below my curtains, as if there were people sitting in my window behind them and I didn't want to disturb them. They seemed pretty chill, and I saw another one that was less detailed emerging from one of my walls. These hallucinations stayed there the whole time no matter how many times I blinked, looked away, or whatever, but none of them seemed to be hostile or active. They were just there. I started texting people on my phone saying I needed help and I was tripping sack, which I don't remember doing either because at that moment, I did not feel any fear or worry, which still weirds me out. A moment later, I accidentally turned my phone off by holding the power button for too long, and I couldn't enter it anymore because I didn't know the passcode to my SIM at the moment, which was just 0000. So I tried to look for my second phone with no success because I kept falling into these scenarios where I was talking to someone, realizing I'm talking to air and being confused. So I smoked yet another cigarette, which ended up thrown away because I didn't know it wasn't lit. In a moment of clarity, I realized I needed to get the fuck out of this situation, so I took a few benzos, which made me black out. Luckily, a friend that saw my messages called the ambulance after I didn't respond anymore, and a few hours later, I got woken up by my friend shaking me, and he took me to the hospital where they checked me up and saw most of my vitals were fine. And after I woke up, everything was over. I barely even had a hangover, apart from the usual post-roll-downs. I'm pretty much fine now, but I'm very lucky that things didn't go any worse.